managed to put an ultrasound on the same axis. So this is coaxial. So once the mechanical actuator gives a sharp tap like this, what will happen to a tissue? If I tap like this, the shock waves from my fingers are traveling through this hood. If the FibroScan gives a sharp tap, the shock wave is going to move inside the brain. Now, anything that moves has got a measurable velocity. Right? And what does the velocity of a wave depend on? It depends on the density of the medium. As you all will recall, that we can hear the sound of the train engines from the rail station in the morning. And we can hear them better in the winter. Why is that? Because in winter the air is colder, the air is denser, there is more fog, and the sound carries better from a longer distance. So the velocity of sound to the carrying capacity of the wave is more if the medium is dense. So this is the exact principle of FibroScan. What happens is the mechanical actuator creates a shear wave. It travels from here to here through the liver or any tissue, and the ultrasound cleverly measures the speed of the shear wave by measuring the displacement of the tissue. So you have got the machine giving a displacement, and it is measuring how far the displacement of the shear wave is moving. And by correlating it, we can find an indirect measure of the stiffness of the tissue. I'll show you what happens is, you can see here that the ultrasound probe is being placed. This is the mechanical actuator. It gives a sharp tap. You'll see the shear wave starting to move. And in a particular region of interest, this machine using ultrasound Doppler is measuring how far this wave is traveling. And it creates a strain map. How does it create a strain map? So this is the depth of the tissue cylinder, of the region of interest which I showed you. So you have, this is the starting point, this is the end point, and this is the time. And this is the shear wave, where the tissue has been displaced because of the propagating shear wave. And we know distance by time is something called velocity. So we have here distance by time. By measuring the slope of this line here, we can measure how fast the shear wave is moving. Okay, this is an animation I've run this for you. There are two levers. You will see two shear waves. So you have to tell me which one of these is the stiffer lever. Okay, I'll play it 1 second for you. Which one? That one? A or B? A or B? In which one is the waves moving faster? B. That means that tissue is denser. B tissue is denser. We all agree? And why will the liver be denser? Because of fibrosis. So you can see here that the liver on the right side is denser, it has got more fibrosis, the velocity is more, and therefore we have got the faster propagation of the shear waves. So as you can see here, if you see F0 fibrosis, F2 fibrosis, and F4, as the fibrosis increases, you can see here that this slope becomes steeper. So that means that to cover the same distance, same depth, it needs, in F0 fibrosis this much of time, in F2 fibrosis it needs lesser time, and in F4 fibrosis it needs minimum time. So the distance is the same, the time taken to cover the same distance is increasing. That means the velocity is increasing as the amount or degree of fibrosis is increasing. So we use this, I'll come to the cutoffs and how we use these facts later on. But remember, please remember that we have to be very picky and choosy in whom we advise FibroScan. 18-year-old boy going to the college or hostel for the first time, goes on a vacation with his friends to some hill station or some seaside resort, comes back with jaundice, You test for hepatitis A positive, hepatitis A IgA positive. Liver enzymes are 2000, 2300. Will you do FibroScan? You will not do FibroScan. Here something else, the cellular edema is causing the liver to become stiffer. FibroScan machine does not know that. It only finds out that the velocity is faster. It cannot distinguish from inflammation, from edema, and fibrosis. So it will give you a higher value. So 18-year-old boy, acute viral hepatitis, active liver inflammation, active alcoholism, if you do FibroScan, it will give you a falsely elevated value. So do not do FibroScan in those settings. If there is external biliary obstruction, you see an basic ultrasound that the internal biliary radicals are dilated. Do not ask for a FibroScan. If there is hepatic venous condition, cardiac failure, or renal failure patient on dialysis, be very careful because if the liver is congested, liver becomes stiff and soggy, and FibroScan will give you a higher value. If you have a patient with frank cirrhosis, with varices or ascites, do not ask for a FibroScan. It will give you a wrong value. In patients with ascites, please never ask for a FibroScan. What happens is, if the patient is having ascites, you give them shear wave here between the abdominal wall and the liver, there is presence of water. Because of this change of media, the waves are going to get diffracted. So we are not going to get a correct velocity of the waves after all. So in decompensated cirrhosis or non-confirmed cirrhosis, do not ask for a FibroScan. And liver stiffness values increases after food consumption because we know that hepatic blood flow increases up to 3 to 4 hours after food consumption. A liver technique is MR elastography. I think there are only 2 places in West Bengal which are doing MR elastography. So what you have is a passive driver like in the FibroScan machine, but it's made of plastic, obviously, it's an MR machine. So there is conventional MR image of the liver, and this passive driver keeps on giving these impulses. And the wave is generated and it is calculated into an elastogram. The higher the stiffness is, the higher the colors will be, or the color bar here. So by using this, we can distinguish between the various stages of fibrosis. As you see, the higher stages of fibrosis with higher values in FibroScan, they show up differently in elastography than for a normal liver. You can have a lot more red here, which means that in these areas the liver is much more stiff as found out in the elastography. Now you do not need to remember this line. This is just the cutoff values. Since I am not doing the MR elastography, I am just taking the liver stiffness of FibroScan. You just have to remember 2 values, 8.2 and 13.6. 8.2, something less than that, you are in the same, and more than 13.6, it probably reflects underlying cirrhosis on fibrosis. So to translate all this stratification, all this physics fundas into our daily clinical practice, the current guidelines recommend that if the FIB4 score, this is the European guidelines, the FIB4 score is more than 2.67, refer directly to the hepatologist. If it is intermediate, to the FibroScan or an alternative test, ultimately you have to manage the patient more intensively, manage the comorbidities, manage the obesity, manage the diabetes, ask the patient to take more exercise. And the Indian guidelines are also very clear that if the LSM or the FibroScan value is between 8.2 and 13.6, then you need to treat the patient with either vitamin E or salmeterol or the newer therapies which are coming on. So to make best use of the non-invasives, we have to recognize that biomarkers are not always accurate, there are inherent fallacies. The elastographic techniques like FibroScan need to be ordered and interpreted very carefully. We really do not know how to combine the FIB4 or the other European markers, ELF markers, with our FibroScan values and get a direct or better suited pathway, treatment pathways for the patients. Maybe MR-based technologies will take over in the future, I do not know that. How the newer modalities will correlate with the newer forms of therapy, with the newer antibiotics, with the SGLT2 inhibitors, with the newer semaglutides. So that is something we don't know. And of course, we have to keep the cost of the diagnostic tests in mind because MR-based technologies are still not available because of the cost. some